Okay? No. Hey, that's right. Let's drop. Take it easy. Take it easy. No. You're gonna hurt yourself. Take it easy. You fucking let me out there, man. Fucking let me out there.
That it? Maybe what we need is to start taking chances.
Oh, you want to take some chances? Okay. Who you want to take a chance on?
How the people seem like they forgotten what it was like the first day they got there. Because just think about it. There's a reason why in season 1, why they let the people just drive in circles and then they put down those nails to bust their tires
before
before the sun goes down, because they know what they're about to tell people is so freaking ridiculous.
And why in Colony House they tie people up,
and they tie them up during season 1 because they know that first night is going to be hell and they don't know how unpredictable you are. So it shocked me that the people in the town would attack Tabitha having known all of that. Did you guys not every night? I know that monster dangles her legs. I know this monster does this. I know this monster does that. Just like Randall was studying those monsters, I think the monsters studied the hell out of Randall. And they know his characteristics. They know his patterns. They know the kind of person he is. And I think that is why they intentionally let... Hello and welcome to another edition of the New Watchers on the Wall. Of course, we're discussing from season 3, the new episode, The Light of Day. And man, I feel like this is one of the best episodes because these people are finally starting to do what the heck we've been begging them to do since this show started. Please, will y'all start talking? Please communicate.
Yes.
Please share information.
And we've been holding in a secret. And I think it's time that we, talk about that secret.
What's the secret?
We are actually writers on this show. Joking, but like everything that we while we were watching the show, we kept looking at each other like, are we writing this?
Some of the things
did we
that we
write
predicted,
this?
yes.
Because
Some of the things that we
even
wanted
some
to
of the
see.
dialogue, we were like, okay. They've been watching the show. They've been watching The Watchers on the Wall, and they're like, we're gonna put this in here because we've been watching you watchers. No, anyway, let's talk about this episode.
Great episode. It starts
great.
off with Randall. He's being brought back into Colony House. And I was wondering, when were they going to get Randall? Were they going to wait till the morning to get him? Were they going to get him at night? It looks like they may have got him at that night. It looks like they got him out at night and kind of risked their lives with the monsters and such, right? But this is the interesting thing to me. Randall kind of has that moment and he says angrily, stating that you left me out there using profanity.
Well, yeah, we've been talking about that, right?
Yes. And the thing is, I think that this is foreshadowing, and I honestly, because this was a couple of times in this episode, we saw how they were afraid to let Boyd talk to him because of the frustration. But there's a couple of things with this. Number one, I think that the reason they did this was to create dissension amongst the people, because we're starting to see people not necessarily believing and trusting Boyd anymore.
Right.
So they're eating at his
authority, and mostly it's the bus people, right? The people who came on the bus, who are kind of giving him the side.
I feel like it's everybody, even Ellis at a certain point in this episode.
Well,
was
yeah,
eating it. I think it's just an in general thing where the people are becoming frustrated, and this thing makes me ask 2 questions about Randall, right? Why did these monsters let him live? Is this dude a Manchurian candidate? And what I mean by that is, all right. And then I also think, remember when Randall was saying he knows the monsters? He was like, I sleep in this bus. I see them every night. I know that monster dangles her legs. I know this monster does this. I know this monster does that. Just like Randall was studying those monsters, I think the monsters studied the hell out of Randall. And they know his characteristics. They know his patterns. They know the kind of person he is. And I think that is why they intentionally let this man live. Because I think Randall is going to bring, I don't want to say hell to the town, but I think that he may be one of those driving forces where we see that the people are going to start to split. And I think that there's going to be people who say, you know what? The route that we've been taking is not that route. And I think that Randall could be that person to do that. It also makes me wonder, did Randall make a deal? And when I say make a deal, if you watched our previous video that we did with our friends, and we had a great panel, and we're gonna do it this week too, and do some lives. You recall that we talked about whether or not did Christopher make a deal to live by sacrificing the town and communicating with Jasper. And we talked about that in our previous video. We're not going to go on this long tangent, but it makes me think of those things. Is that why Randall was allowed to live?
Maybe. I think, but I don't think it goes that deep. I really just feel like the monsters are giving these people warnings, just like they let Boyd live and made him watch Tien get tortured to death. I think this is another tactic in which they're doing like psychological warfare on these people. They left Randall alive. We know the monsters, they don't kill because they need to. They do it because it's fun for them. It's their purpose. They want to do it. We don't know if they even have a purpose, really, but that's just what they do. They're not doing this out of necessity for anything. So yeah, they're going to do things like dangle keys and let you drive off with 2 other people. They're going to do things where they are playing with these people. This is a game to them. They have no other purpose but to cause confusion and fear, and so a little bit of hope, which at this point is very dangerous, as we're going to talk about later. But they don't have a purpose. What would be the purpose for them to say, to give him a deal? There is none, other than, well, no, there is none. I think what's happening is that Randall is being set up to be this guy where again, they're splitting the town. And this is what I think is going to happen. He's going to go in there. He's going to stay in Colleen House. He's going to get those weapons. He's going to start talking to people. And there is going to be a takeover. There's going to be a coup. And it's not going to be a cute coup. There's not going to be any kumbaya where people are, Boyd is ringing the bell and getting everybody in and everybody's living peacefully in this town. He is going to create environment where he is forcing people to go in these trees. I wish I had my aluminum foil hat, but he's going to make people go in these trees to find a way. It's going to be a dictatorship. It's not going to be. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to force people to go in the trees, right? But I do think that there may end up being where it's going to be 2 different factions, and I think that there's going to be another thing that causes that. I think Fatima and what's going on with her is also going to cause some dissension. But let's get through the episode because there's a lot to discuss. This is a good episode. It transitions to Boyd. He's standing in front of the hospital. We see that ambulance. Christy walks up with Kenny and Jade, and they're like, "What happened?" And this is when he tells them that Tabitha is back and that there's a meeting later on in the day. Jade runs off because he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta talk to Tabitha. I gotta figure out what's going on." Henry is looking through clothes and he's trying to look good for this reunification with his son, Victor, which I thought was pretty cool because, to be honest about it, when I initially saw him, I was wondering, is this guy actually a bad person? Henry. A lot of people were questioning, is Henry the guy in yellow? Did Henry go to the town and escape? It seems like on the surface so far that Henry is actually a caring father that has been looking for his son and is happy to get his son.
Yeah, and this, it gives us a different perspective about people who got left behind.
Yep.
When these people go to town, it's not always, oh, we're escaping something. Because I initially thought that they were escaping like abuse or something like that.
Yeah, that's what some people were saying.
See, but it looks like it's just giving us showing us, people, what happens to the lives of the people who get left.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was really nice and touching to see, and there was also another major touching scene at the end. Victor and Sarah are now talking about Jasper, and Victor indicates that they need supplies to get Jasper, and they start walking to the Colony House, and they see the repercussions about what happened in Colony House, and Victor's like, "What happened?" And Donna explains to him what occurs. She says Nikki was killed. Victor says, "Oh." typical Victor response, but it's because Victor is focused. But like Victor is like, I came here for these tools and stuff. Forget what y'all talking about. I'm focused on the task at hand. Donna tells Victor Tabitha came back with his dad. Victor runs out and Sarah says, he runs out because he's like, I can't deal with this. I can't handle this. I thought that this was a really cool scene. Sarah runs after him and she says, you are not being fair. You are not being fair. You came into my house and made me sit in that fort.
You dragged me to filth the whole time. Okay.
Told me all this stuff, scared me, got me thinking about Jasper. And you're not going to just walk away from me like that. You're not going to just do that to me. Victor says, my dad is here. And he tells Sarah to go home. It transitions back to Tabitha. She's at home. She's sharing with her family what happened. She tells them that she talked to their grandmother. This is going to be really interesting because in our previous video, we said, why the hell, of all the people that Tabitha could call, why would she call her grandmother? And some people got on our channel and dogged us out for that. They was like, why would she try to call Jim? Why would she call anybody else? Y'all dogged this out.
Why not?
And
why not? Shit, let's suspend disbelief. We went through a fucking tree and ended up in a lighthouse. The ghost boy pushed me out, and I'm in a hospital in Camden, Maine. Why the fuck not would I call Jim? I mean, after everything that I've seen, why wouldn't I?
Especially because at that time, my thing was, what type of environment are they in? Are they in an alternate universe? Is it a different timeline? So we don't know the situation.
We don't know what's going on.
But later on, the folks are going to ask her the same thing, but we digress. Let's keep it moving. So this is when Jay barges in. A very similar scene to, was that season 1 where he barged in and Jim had to get on him because his daughter had just experienced some traumatic events. And he inquires about the lighthouse and the trees and if they are the same as the one Miranda was talking about and looking for. Jim, and then they come up with this plan. We need to go see these trees again. And Jim is not interested in his wife leaving anymore.
Yeah, he don't want to be left with them kids.
He doesn't.
He don't want to be left with them kids. Father of the year.
So they have a quick powwow, and then she's like, look, let me go. We'll let Ethan stay here with you. Me and Jay will go off to these trees.
Again, leaving the children behind. Why can't we all just go to the tree?
Everybody should just go, right? It transitions to Kenny and Boyd. They're in the hospital, kind of like in a waiting room, as trying to check on Randall, so to speak.
Boyd feels guilty.
Super guilty. And what it's crazy because we're going to talk about this. When he had that conversation with Officer Acosta, super interesting conversation and misplaced anger toward her when he did some pretty messed up things to put things in the situation that they were in as well. So Kenny shares that something is walking around those cabins at night where the fruits and vegetables are. Kenny asks, why did the monsters not kill him? Great question, Kenny, because it's very similar to that question of
Jade,
why didn't the monsters kill you in the barn when they killed Mrs. Chen? I wonder if Kenny also knows what nobody knows. Does Boyd tell anybody that the monsters purposely gave him the keys? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think he did.
So he's holding that piece of information. And then it makes me wonder, and this is why I put my notes where I said, is he a Manchurian candidate? Did they intentionally do this? And we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier as to why we think Randall might still be around. Christy and her partner are talking about the Colleen house, and she is feeling incredibly guilty about Nikki and that she felt like she didn't do enough. Christy is trying to calm her down because she's concerned. Like, she's like, look, you've been doing well. You went through the withdrawals. We got you on the right path. I don't want any stressing factors to make you to go back down that rabbit hole. So she's a little bit concerned about her partner. They are interrupted because they hear Randall screaming and hollering. She goes to go and check on Randall. Boyd hears it. He goes to help as well. And Boyd tries to convince him, let me help. And Mariel says, look, we don't need you in here right now. all you're going to do is antagonize the situation. You're going to make the situation worse than it already is. And Boyd says, you know what? That may not be a bad idea. It transitions to Donna, and she is shadowing and showing Henry Victor's room in Colony House. Did you think that was an invasion of privacy?
Yeah. Well, why are you going in that man's room like that? Like, for what?
I kind of felt like that was a small invasion of privacy.
Because he's he's childlike, but he's not a child.
Yeah.
You know?
And then especially we all know how Victor is about his stuff.
Things, yeah.
You know, and for him to, you know, take him in there. So Henry is looking around the room. He speaks about the trauma. And I thought Henry and Victor had some amazing scenes this episode. Freaking amazing scenes. And Henry is talking about the trauma of hope, of hoping that your kids and your spouse will come home when they're missing. And he talked about how this hope eventually just transitioned to it becoming easier just to say, they're dead, bro. Let it go. Let them go.
As the years went by, it became easier to tell myself they were dead. So,
and I was like, wow. And then he starts to talk about the guilt that he felt that I didn't do more to try to find my son. And I can feel that. Like there was a couple of moments in this episode that gave me the same feels a little bit as I felt when we saw the acting that Kenny did when he realized his mother was killed. When we saw the acting that Boyd did when he was released from the handcuffs and he was holding him as his chin. Some great moments in this episode here. Billy comes barging in right at the right time again and says, hey, the meeting is about to occur. Once again, this Tilly woman is suspect. It's almost like she's showing up. Let me see what they're in here talking about, right? She's always at the right place at the right time.
And why did this old lady want to be living in Colony House anyway? Don't you want to just sit in one of these houses and be a grandma and just bake? Like, why are you in there in the freaky deaky house with all the young people?
Yeah, she could have been a new Mrs. Chen or something.
I know.
In that kitchen cooking and being a grandma figure. But she want to be with the mess and, do tarot cards and bring crows and shit into the house. That's what she on.
Dan is in the cafeteria. He's being very impatient.
During the town meeting.
Yeah, and Dan is gonna Dan. He's asking some and saying some real things, but at the same time, it's Dan. So it's like it's not gonna come off.
Yeah.
It's not gonna come off great.
and then like we said in a previous video, we said that this season they're being incredibly more intentional about including many of the supporting casts now, right? We saw that when they went to go get those fruits and vegetables, they had Dan there. They had a couple of other characters that we just don't see. And it was because we think that they're setting us up to have some rapport with those characters because there's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be some things that go down this season, I think. And I think they want us to form attachments with different people so that these things can happen. But Dan, in a lot of ways, is having some realistic feelings about what a lot of people would feel in that moment. And Boyd is trying to calm the people down, but the people in town are challenging his leadership and they want these answers now. They're tired of Boyd saying, calm down, we got this, we're going to do this. And like I said, they're saying, go ahead.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Somebody who left came back with a whole nother person. Yeah, I would be angry too. So it's like I was watching it and I was like, I don't blame them. Like I don't. But in the same time, I'm like, those trees are dangerous.
Yes.
Like, do they know? And at that point, I didn't know. Did Boyd tell them that he went through a tree and ended up in a chimney?
Yeah, he never told them that. Go ahead.
And how? Well, he didn't mention how he got out. Nobody asked, like, how did you get out?
And that's why
of the chimney.
Yep. And that's why he never brought it up because, well, he told a few of them. He actually told a couple of people that he was in the chimney and got the worms. Remember when his son Ellis got stabbed by Dan in season 2? Yeah. So he told that select group few of people. but I don't think that everybody else knows that that occurred, because like you said, if you mention, yeah, I was stuck in a thing, the first question is, well, how did you get out? Oh, this dude named Martin got me out. And then you got to go down the long story of getting the worms and doing all of that. And it also makes me wonder, do they even know that they killed the monster yet? Does the town know?
No, I don't think they know.
I don't think the freaking town knows.
I think very little people know. And as we've seen, nobody's talking about these things that are happening, right? It's only like if you know, you know. But I can understand where they're coming from and why Dan made the decision he did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because Dan, he was, a lot of people want to get out. And Tabitha walks in with Jim and she doesn't know what to say. And Jim says, look, just tell the people the truth. And Tabitha begins sharing what she knows, right? She's sharing what she knows. It transitions to Julie. She's headed to the colony house. She sneaks upstairs to get a stash of weed from Ellis in Fatima's room. Once again, when that child got to the town, why was that child placed in the room with two grown adults, knowing what they do in that room? That was the last place that a minor needed to be, because now she's up in their room, getting the marijuana and getting the weed. This is something.
No parent in sight.
No parent in sight. Just walks off. And for somebody that's always talking about she's so scared and stuff is going on, she should be moving around a lot by herself. Now, check this out. This is something that really kind of tripped me out a little bit. Why? So she gets the weed. She comes back down the stairs, and then Elgin is there, and he's about to bust her upside her head with a fireplace tool that you use to get the ashes out. If that dude is so scared and he can't sleep, he's scary, why would he stay back in the colony house all by himself when everybody else left? Make that make sense. He's so scared to go to sleep. The kimono lady's chasing him. Crows busting through the window, waking you up in your sleep, and everybody in the colony house leaves, and then you decide, I'm gonna stay in the colony house by myself, walk around scared with something about to hit Julie upside her head.
It's just something to keep the story moving.
Get
them to interact.
That's what it was. Victor is sitting in that old car, the car that I think belonged to his mother, and he explains that he is scared to meet his father because he is afraid he will not measure up. And I felt that. Another one of those scenes that, like, Victor and Henry has some great scenes this episode. And Julie tries to comfort him. And I love what she said. She said a couple of things like, I know that you want me to say something positive, blah, 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 but I don't really know what to say. and he's like,
you're not very good at this.
Yes. And then it's like, Sarah says, you know what? Let me try to do this a little bit better. And then she tells Victor that he's a good person and that his father would be proud to know that he is still a good person with all the things that he has experienced in the town. It transitions to Julie and Elgin. They're sitting at that table. They're smoking that weed. They're sharing stories. Elgin is talking about the kimono lady. Julie talks about what she experienced when she was in that coma, and she talks about how she can still hear those things in her heads, and she can also feel it as well. They have an interesting conversation because there's some parallels to what she's saying and to what Jim has said, where Julie says this whole place exists only to make us suffer. That's why it let her out. It wanted to let her out so that she could come back and tell the folks, hey, I got out, and to give the folks all of this hope. That's why this town is doing this to the people. It transitions back to the diner. They ask Tabitha, and this is like, goes back to what we were saying, like, why did Tabitha choose to call her grandmother? All the people are saying, okay, these things happened to you, but what did you do when you was outside the town that can help us and benefit the people right now? They wanted to know. And somebody said, well, did you call the authorities? And she said, no. And everybody gets upset, and they're like, you had our one opportunity to help us. And what did you do with it? You choose to call your grandmother. You choose to, that's what you choose to do with that moment.
But they're not thinking of how, like, big picture, what this looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not thinking about, like, okay, this woman from this family who's been missing, they found her in the woods.
Yep.
family nowhere around, right?
Yep.
And she doesn't know where they're not thinking like what this looks like. They're not thinking about like it looks like she did something to her family.
Yeah.
Right? They're not thinking
Rationally, because
rationally.
if she calls law enforcement, they're gonna lock her up in a mental health institution.
Right, and then what?
And now you guys are still stuck.
Right.
That's not a viable plan too. And then a couple of people start to come to her defense, right? We see Officer Acosta say, look, when she told me that bonehead story, I didn't believe it. We saw Henry say the same thing. And what's interesting is it's kind of funny how the people seem like they've forgotten what it was like the first day they got there.
Mm-hmm.
Because just think about it. There's a reason why in season 1, why they let the people just drive in circles and then they put down those nails to bust their tires
before
before the sun goes down, because they know what they're about to tell people is so freaking ridiculous.
And why in Colony House they tie people up,
and they tie them up during season 1 because they know that first night is going to be hell and they don't know how unpredictable you are. So it shocked me that the people in the town would attack Tabitha having known all of that. Did you guys not remember your first experience when you got into Colony House and how they had to bust your tires with the nails, tie you up in Colony House to make sure that you weren't a monster and to calm you down so that you understand what's going on? The indoctrination process that has to go on.
But the thing is too, Patrick, is that I don't think a lot of these people, the majority of these people has seen these monsters in action. All they're going by is what people are telling them. I don't think they've seen what's happened. All they have is stories
and see the dead body bags.
And secondhand account. They don't know what's actually going on.
Yeah. And that could play a part of it, but it goes to show them expecting her to like necessarily be a savior and some of it was just misplaced anger, right? And then it transitions to Tabitha. She's overwhelmed and she's like, I'm out of here, bro. I gotta go. Boy tries to look at the glass half empty and talk to the people and say, hey guys, calm down. Half full, right? At this point, it's probably half empty. Dan said, where is this tree? Because I'm going to this tree, bro. It's nothing you can do to not make me go to this tree. Everyone wants to get in the tree, into the lighthouse. Boyd is really losing control of the people and losing control of himself in this situation.
At this point, I think Boyd just needs to just retire. Him, Donna, all the OGs. I think they just need to retire.
I got something. It's funny that you go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that's all I was gonna say.
It's funny that you say that because I have a thought about Donna, about when she came to the end when we saw Dan in the wall. Remind me to bring up my thought. So he's leaving. Boyd is leaving the diner. And Ellis stops him and says, Dad, what's going on here? He's talking to him. And long story short, he says, listen, we've got to start taking more risk around here. We cannot keep playing, softball. Let's go all in. And Boyd yanks him around and says, who do you want to put at risk? Who do you want to put at risk? That person,
He's
that
like,
person.
I want to know. No, I want to know. That sounds like a black parent.
Yeah,
no,
I want to know.
I want to know.
And I think this is also some foreshadowing, because I know for a fact, and well, I can't say I know for a fact, but they are, like I said, they're setting up these wedges to create this divide. Ellis, Fatima, it's going to create a divide in the town, and it might even create a divide between Ellis and his father, because his father is the kind of person that wants to do what's best for all. And it may put him in a position where he needs to kill Fatima, try to do something to her, and it's going to cause that rift between them again. But I digress. Let's keep it moving because I want to get through this. It transitions to Elgin and Julie. This is probably my favorite part. Elgin and Julie, they're in the basement. They're trying on all these weird things that, just, I guess, stuff that they keep in the basement instead of bringing it upstairs and sharing it with everybody in the house. So they're trying on stuff. They're looking really cool. And this is my favorite part. They find an old Polaroid camera. Julie takes a picture of Elgin. At first, I thought it was going to be a demon or something behind him. Just a regular picture. Then he takes a picture of Julie and they dance around and play and they don't show us the results of Julie's picture. I guarantee you, in Julie's picture, something's gonna be wrong with it. She's either gonna be a monster in the picture, or something's gonna be standing behind her. Shoot, could she be the thing that's bothering Elgin in that stupid kimono dress? Talking about help me. I don't know, but I know that something's gonna be wrong with her picture, and that's why they did not show us her picture just yet. We're gonna see it next episode, and like I said, they're setting it up. What's gonna happen if they find out something's happening with Julie? That's gonna create a rift with the Matthews family. What's gonna happen when the town finds out about Fatimata and she's got
Fatimata.
I said Fatimata.
It
Fatima.
It sound like a damn vegetable.
Food, like a taco or something, right? So, nevertheless, it transitions from there, and well, actually, I made a mistake. So they don't show the picture. It transitions to Officer Acosta. She's talking to Boyd, and she's trying to make amends for all the things that she's done. And she tells a story, and she says, look, I was in a situation like this. And she says, sometimes it's good to get people's busy again, to get their minds off of things that are going on. And Boyd rips her a new one.
I didn't expect that.
I did not expect that. And this is the thing. He blames her for shooting that person. But Boyd, how are you trying to blame anybody for anything that's going on when your actions put Randall at risk?
It's just misplaced anger.
It is.
And guilt, and
Yep.
She didn't. I mean, he's right. She didn't have to do all that. I mean, she killed somebody, right?
Yep.
She's a cop who killed somebody.
Yep. And it transitions to Fatimata. She's going to eat Fatima. What's her name? Fatima. She's going to eat those rotten fruits and vegetables. And the moment happened that we have been saying, we said it several videos ago. We cannot wait till we see Ellis find out what the hell she's doing, because he's gonna find out. We knew he was, because I know it's going to be a source of conflict. He sees her and she tries to just walk away, and he's like, you're not leaving. And then she finally tells him, this is what I've been eating, this is what I've been doing. And then
didn't tell him she was eating people.
Well, she didn't tell that part. And then it cuts away, but we can only imagine how that conversation went. We can only imagine, because I think, like I said, it's either going to create that wedge, or it's going to create a sense of desperation in them, where they're going to be trying to find that lighthouse or something and leave to try to get out the town to save their baby or whatever. Ethan walks out the house again by himself with
this strange man he's never met.
Another stranger, because at least, remember back in that colony house, they would tie you up for a day or two until they calmed you down. They bring a strange man here. Ethan is walking outside. Henry says something interesting. He's like, there's a motel sign here, there's a pool, but there is no motel or hotel. Interesting point, because we did see the Matthews house collapse. Did this house collapse or whatever? We'll talk about that in another video. Ethan invites him, let's go feed the animals at the barn. Walks away from his parents. Like, does Ethan not have any training on stranger danger?
No.
Like, does this kid need some training on stranger danger? This man ain't even been in the town 24 hours, and you gonna go walk with this man? You don't know him, and then the folks just let you leave the house? Like Jim said, I'm gonna watch him while y'all go to the tree. So Jim, what are you doing right now while your son Ethan is just walking around?
What are you doing?
So they go to walk to feed the animals, and Ethan kind of has a small conversation about Victor, some of his personality quirks. And as they're walking, this is when they see Victor. But he also says something about how, like, Victor sometimes is very standoffish. And Ethan shares that he feels like he's that way because anytime Victor loves someone and gets close to them, they end up dying. And I thought that was an interesting point. And I feel like there's a reason that they were specific about sharing that with us. Victor sees his dad. They have this emotional moment. And this season has given us some amazing moments. Reminded me a lot about how I felt when Mrs. Chen died. Kenny's emotional reaction. Great scene overall. The hugging and him it's a father's love.
Right.
I don't care how you are now, what this town has done to you. You are my son. I love you, and I'm gonna love on you.
Mm-hmm.
It transitions to Boyd. He's back in the bus. He's looking around, feeling that guilt. Bacta walks in, and she says, "Is I messed up. I should have been more supportive in that meeting." And then she shares that in the future she will have his back. Transition to Jade and Tabitha. They're going through the bottles and reading the numbers in the bottle tree. They mention and point out that the trees have the numbers are like years, and people have been theorizing that these different time periods and years can be when the town reset itself, different things we don't know, but they made a point to show that. Jay shares that he saw the freaky kids that she had been seeing, and he also shows him that when he was in that cave, he saw the symbol, but he said that it looked more like it was tree roots, which was pretty interesting. He also says that those kids will land on slabs of stone. And he also said that the kids love to say that word, the Kui word. Dan walks up and, hey, so here's the damn tree. And he shares that he's going to go in the tree. And the thing I did like about what Dan said, he was like, I'm actually going to try to get some help and bring some help back to this town. So he says, I'm going through there. Boyd and Bacta are walking off of the bus. They hear screaming. They walk over to the pool. Dale is stuck inside of the wall, which is kind of what I thought was going to happen.
I thought he was going to fall from the sky. I didn't think he was going to be in the fucking wall.
Yeah.
That was so scary to look at. That was, oh my God. I still have that.
It was creepy
in my head. Like that image is just.
Yeah. It's and then the thing I like about that, because some people are saying that Dale was going to be under the car, pinned or something like that. The thing I liked about that scene was that Boyd was about to shoot Dale to put him out of his misery, and Dale dies. But it goes to show you that Boyd is always willing to make the toughest of the toughest choices to try to help people, right? Mm-hmm. But Boyd was incredibly smart in that moment. Because what is that saying? Never waste a crisis, or something like that. Like, never waste a crisis. He turns around and says, "Who else wants to fucking go in the tree?
Whose turn is it?
Whose turn is it?
Who wants to go next?
Who wants to go next?
Who got next?"
And I thought it was genius, freaking genius, that he took that as an opportunity to settle people back down. Because now everybody's going to run and say, damn, Dale went in that tree and this was the repercussion.
And he's stuck. I mean, they're not going to, he can't, that is a permanent fixture that you can go and look at.
A mural.
A mural. God damn. That's like a mural?
Dan the mural.
Oh my God.
Dan the mural. But it makes me wonder, are they going to try to dig him out to bury him? But long story short, that was a summary. This video went kind of long because I just felt like to me, this was one of the best episodes of the season.
You said, remind you about something about Donna.
Oh, when Donna walked over and she saw Dale in that thing and she saw Boyd yelling, "Who wants to go on the fucking tree next?" To me, Donna has been questioning Boyd's judgment as of late, saying, are you giving these people too much hope? I think Donna is going to get to the point where she says, I'm done with this hope shit. Y'all, if y'all want to do all that, I think that a lot of people feel like the town pushed back on them because they started trying to get out. They started doing things. They created the tower to try to communicate, right?
That's where it started.
Yes, the town pushed back. They went into the forest.
The hole,
Sarah and Boyd.
The hole she was trying to dig.
The hole she was digging. The town pushed back. Sarah and Boyd went into the forest. They got dragged. We don't know what they got dragged by. But he ended up finding a tower. He ended up getting stuck in a well. The town has been pushing back because Boyd keeps trying to push the narrative forward and keeps trying to escape and have hope. I think Donna's going to say, I'm sick of this shit. I'm done with y'all people making the town harder on me because you keep trying to do stuff. And like I said, I think that could be one of those other things that creates that rift where you're going to see people in the town who are the people who say, look, I just want to smoke my weed, live the best life I can in this thing. And then you're going to have another set of people that are still trying to push their way out. But overall, great episode. What would you rate this episode?
7. I'll give it a 7.
Oh man, I'm giving this episode like a 8.5 because we finally started to see some freaking conversations.
Not enough for me.
But I feel like it's only so much that they could give us, but I feel like we're moving the story along. Leave a comment below. What are your thoughts on the video? As always, our watch has ended. Peace.